thought it would be nice to share some of my favourite current art and craft books with you. Some of them are new, some of them are second-hand, some of them are vintage. And in the case of this one on the top here that we're going to look at first, this is actually a booklet of different projects to stitch and sew. So this is by Blackbird Designs. I only recently discovered them. I've recently got back in to sewing, embroidery, cross-stitching, and we're going to be talking about that in another video. I'm planning on making a video about that and showing you what I've been doing. But Blackbird Designs seem to come up with the most gorgeous patterns for cross-stitch and different sewing projects. So I'm going to give you a quick flick through here because I think if you love folk art, whether or not you stitch, I think you're going to love these designs. So this is called Winds of Autumn. I really want to work on some of the designs from this book because they have that kind of cosy, autumnal, sometimes slightly spooky vibe that I like. I have actually been working from another cross-stitch book, which I think I'm going to show you quickly because I do think you'll love it. I wasn't going to share that one with you today, but I'm going to go and get it in a minute, but we'll have a quick flick through this one. That design, October the 31st, is just beautiful. And the photography in this booklet is so nice. You have all the cross-stitch charts in here and all the other information you need to be able to make these projects. This one you can actually make, like so many of them, into like a pincushion or something like that. But I actually really love the design just as it is. So I might stitch some of these and just frame them actually rather than make them into something. But you have samplers as well. I'm going to talk to you more about all of this, about how I got back into sewing and how I used to do it in the past as well a little bit. So we'll talk all about that in another video. My own work has a very strong folk art feel. My paintings always have had a folk art feel for many, many years. And so I'm always attracted to this style of art, whether it's paintings or stitched pieces. And I love this autumnal colour palette as well. I find that a lot of the motifs they use are things that I would paint. And I'm really excited to be translating my paintings into stitched pieces as well. So what I love about books like this is that you can just take elements from this. You don't have to make the entire project. For example, I could stitch that and then just frame it in an embroidery hoop or find a little frame for it or something and put it on the wall. It doesn't have to be something that I actually make into an object as such. But I do love these little bags. I think it's a great idea for gifts as well. This is just a stunning design. I think this is just a really inspiring book. I think stitching something like that is as much a work of art as a painting. And yeah, this book has really inspired me. And I'm finding I'm just loving anything by Blackbird Designs. They're really fantastic designers. So the second book we're going to have a look at is The Liberty Book of Simple Sewing. This book is great, even if you're just into Liberty designs in general, because it has many, many examples of them. So at the beginning, there's a section about essential tools and equipment and getting started. So it tells you everything you need to know in order to work on these projects. And then we get to the project section. And one of the first things in here, in fact, the first project, were these cloud cushions, and I really would love to try and see whether I can make one of these. They're just so much fun. Then you have a mobile, curtain panel, chair pads. The photography in this book again, it's another one of those books where it has really inspirational photography. And you can do covered letters, which are quite fun as well. Picture frames. So as I say, this came out a few years ago. I can't remember when exactly, more than 10 years ago I think, and you can find second-hand copies. I mean, I was lucky enough to find this one in the bookshop, but you can find them online as well. So little birds, just all sorts of projects. And yeah, as I say, it's just full of beautiful photography and Liberty prints. I mean, what more could you want? So yeah, there's plenty in there to inspire you. So we'll just have a quick flick through that one because it is quite a big book. I'm going to show you the creepy cross-stitch book now. So if you're like me, you love this time of the year, you love slightly creepy designs, but also things that are cute as well as creepy, then this book is incredible. So I discovered this because basically Amazon seemed to think I would like it, and it was totally right. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to flick through. I don't want to share any of the pattern designs because I don't think that's really very fair, but so we'll perhaps cover those up. Wonder whether I have something to cover them up with, or I'll just be very careful about how I flick through. But this, I have actually bought the threads and I have the fabric, the oatmeal coloured Ada fabric, to work on this piece. I'm actually working on one of the other pieces first, but this is my next project from this book. I just think it's absolutely gorgeous. I love the colours and I just love the style of this. So she tells you a bit about cross-stitch patterns and even how to frame them. But there are plenty of projects in here and they're quite kind of tongue-in-cheek, some of them. So springtime in the graveyard. And she's framed a lot of these apparently in vintage frames she found in thrift stores or charity shops, as we would say here in the UK. So I'm going to be looking actually in some antique shops or in charity shops, see whether I can find some interesting frames in which to frame my projects. So this one's Together Forever, which is quite funny. I love the trees in that one. So it's kind of dark but also very cute. So you have a little ghost cat there. And what I like about these designs is that you could, perhaps if you wanted to work on a really small piece, you could just isolate the cat and work on that and just put that in a little frame. You don't necessarily have to do all of the design on some of these. So I'm just going to cover up the pattern there with my big jumper. But yeah, this little ghost, I really want to make him too. And I love the way she's framed that in that arched frame. But these are great patterns also for beginners because they don't have a huge number of colours. I actually started the other week with a design that had 30 odd colours and it was just overly complex. These often have 10 colours and it's much easier to handle. I can't wait to tell you a little bit more actually about what I've been working on and share my journey with this. So as I say, this is the piece that I would really like to work on next from this book. So I'm just going to quickly flick through, covering up any patterns as I go. This is another one that I would love to have a go at eventually as well. And this spider, I'm terrified of spiders, but I tell you what I love is I love the border. And you could actually use that border, just cross stitch that, and then you could put your own motif in the centre, which I think is really nice. So we won't go through everything, but I just wanted to find this piece because this is the one I'm currently working on and it's actually getting to the finishing stages now. So I'm pretty excited to share that with you when it's finished. But yeah, this is an amazing book. And if you're into cross stitch, and you like something that's a little bit different, then I would really recommend this. There are so many projects in here that I would love to work on. They vary from being very, very simple through to being a little bit more complex. But I would say if you're a beginner, you could easily tackle some of these projects. So let's move on to actual art books now. So this is Owls by Sewell. I think I've shared with you in previous book videos, maybe 1 or 2 Sewell books. Well, this one is devoted to owls. So we're going to have a quick flick through. I think this basically speaks for itself, so maybe I won't chat through this one and I'll just flick through and show you a few of the illustrations. But I love his illustration style. They have so much character. It's a great book if you want to just learn a little bit more about owls, but also if you just love Sewell's style. They're really endearing. I can't share all of them, all be here for a long time, but they're separated into different categories as well. So you have desert owls, woodland owls, wilderness owls, I think is another one. And at the back you have a little owl spotting guide. So yeah, really sweet little book. I have, I think, 3 of Matt's books, and I find them really inspiring, and they're just so nice to just sit down and flick through, which is often how I use the art books in my studio. I do have 2 bookcases in the studio, and this is because I like to keep all of my books very close to me while I'm working. So if I feel like I want just a little bit of inspiration or to look at something for reference, I can just get it really easily. So I like to keep all my books around me. So yeah, would really recommend Matt's books. They always make me smile because they're such cute little characters. These were 2 books I recently found on eBay. I wasn't specifically looking for them. I was just looking, I think, at vintage books in general, and these came up as a suggestion and I really loved the look of them. So they're from the same series. This one is How to Draw the Countryside. This one's How to Draw Wild Animals of the Countryside. And they are, let's have a look if we can find the year. Right, first published 1947, reprinted 1951. So this is from 1951. Now, the reason I love to have vintage books in the studio, and I have quite a collection of vintage books now, is because I think it's really good, it's good practice to have reference images for as many different illustration styles and artists as you possibly can. It's never a good idea to, for example, I would say just look at current illustrators. Now, the reason for this is, certainly in these days of social media, and this is something I've noticed, is that certain illustrators are all producing work that looks so much like everyone else's work. And by that I mean everyone else who is popular at the moment. So there's a whole group of people, and when their work comes up in my feed, I actually don't know initially whose work it is, because they're all working in a very similar way. And this is often because they all have the same influences. They're looking at a very narrow kind of group of illustrators or artists, and they're all becoming inspired by that. So I feel it's always really good to look at the illustration of the past as well, and you can pick up these little books for not that much. You'll be able to have different sources of reference, and I think that can only be a good thing. And it's just really interesting to see the illustration of, in this case, 70 years ago. So this is an instructional book, and it's still relevant today. So it has a section on perspective, but I just thought it would be lovely to have, because I love obviously painting the countryside. I was very attracted to these little illustrations of the little cottages and the trees and so on. And yeah, it's just lovely to have and lovely to flick through. There's a section here about skies. I could do with reading that section. I always find skies quite difficult. Certainly cloudy skies. Yeah, look at that. Isn't that lovely? And it's not something you see everywhere, because I do feel like in this age of social media, there's, I don't know, just a lot of people doing very similar work, and it honestly doesn't excite me that much. And when I see something different, and I can tell when people have like a wide range of references and inspirations, as opposed to just working on or working in a style that's really fashionable right now. But this is great if you want to learn how to depict animals. They're such useful little books. So yeah, there you go. How to draw wild animals of the countryside and how to draw the countryside. You may be able to find these on eBay. It's definitely worth a look if you like them, if you like what you see. Okay, we're going to move on to the Colour Mixing Companion. So this was a book I picked up at Waterstones in Ipswich when I was in Suffolk in May. And it's not something that I've actually read, but rather I just flick through it. But you could certainly read it if you need to know more about colour mixing. I tend to mix colours when I'm working very intuitively, but it's always good to learn a little bit more about it. But I actually got this book thinking, I just love the swatches. So I was just really attracted to these beautiful swatches, and I thought that they could just inspire me, like I could pick it up and dip into it. And for example here, they are mixing French ultramarine and burnt sienna and making this gorgeous muted grey blue, and then they're mixing Indian red with French ultramarine. So it's really interesting just to see these mixes. And they talk about using a limited palette if you're interested in that as well. Dull and bright colours. We have separate sections for the different colour families. And I love that this is divided up into watercolours, acrylics and oils. Look at that paint, doesn't that look nice? But yeah, really useful little book if you'd like a bit of an introduction to colour mixing, or even if, like me, you just want it for inspiration and ideas. And just as a quick reference, those are really nice. I'm very heavily into greens now. Lovely. Really nice little book. So that's the Colour Mixing Companion by Julie Collins. So I thought about getting this book of Milton Avery's work for quite a while, and I'm glad that I finally took the plunge and got it. I guess you could say that his work is quite different to mine, but there's something about his use of colour that I just find so inspiring. I'm just going to flick through to a few that I particularly love. I love that this one is called Moody Landscape. It's really lovely. And Rolling Hills. These are more muted than I would expect from him, really. Ah, this one I really love. Blue Trees. These gorgeous pastel colours that remind me, actually this reminds me a little bit of Luna North's work. If you know Luna, look her up on Instagram. Hi Luna, if you're watching this video. I know she does watch my videos occasionally. Yeah, I just find he has a really interesting way with colour that I haven't really seen before with anyone else. And these simplified forms as well. I really love that. There's something about the colours here. Just kind of soft and muted, and then he adds like a brighter colour. I really love that combination. That's nice. Oyster Catcher. I mean, I must confess I don't know that much about Milton Avery. I don't know how many landscapes he did, for example. The only thing I wish is that there were more landscapes in this book. That's interesting with the speedboat. See, it's so simple, yet it's really, it kind of makes a big impact. And then we get the super simple ones like, look at that. Black Sea. It's like he manages to say a lot with so little, and that always quite appeals to me. But yeah, so if you're a bit of a fan of Milton Avery, this is a nice book to have, but I would say I would love to see some more landscapes. But it's very inspiring anyway, and this is great for using for colour palette inspiration as well, and just perhaps making you think a little bit differently about colour. Okay, so the final two books, we have one craft book and one art book. This is Zakka Embroidery by Yumiko Higuchi, and I discovered Yumiko's work just the other week when I was searching for embroidery books and cross-stitch books, and this is the first one I bought. And then I added, because she has several, I added several of them to my wish list, and I actually caved in and bought another two the other day, which are absolutely beautiful and which I'll be sharing with my patrons on Patreon. I'm going to be doing a book video just for them this month, and so there'll be more of Yumiko's books and more art and craft books in general. So if you fancy having a look, head on over to my Patreon. I'll leave the link in the description. But the reason I started with this book is because it's simple 1 and 2 colour embroidery motifs and small crafts. So it seemed like it's really simple. So I was looking for ideas for projects that aren't going to take forever to do, and that can also spark off my own ideas, because I want to work on my own designs, and I have actually started doing that, by the way. But yeah, I also like the idea of perhaps practicing and enjoying working on other people's designs as well. So these use, as it says, 1 or 2 colours, so it keeps things fairly simple. But I just love her gorgeous little motifs, the little birds and the trees. She's made this one into a book cover called Night Forest book cover, and a hat ribbon. But of course you could do whatever you like with these. That one's on a little collar. Like that one's been made into a cushion, but you could embroider that honestly, you could just embroider this. You could embroider 3 in a row, do it however you want to, and just frame it. I feel like books like this just spark off ideas. It's like, for example, you don't need, if you didn't want to do this one's called Herb Garden. You don't need to do all of these. You could just maybe pick 3 that you love, or pick 1 and just make a really simple little picture, or embroider onto, I don't know, maybe you have a little drawstring bag and you want to just embroider a little simple design, so you could just pick one of those. But yeah, this is absolutely, like her other books, it's just full of inspiration. So I'm not going to show you the entire thing, but you can get a good idea. And what I also loved is in the back you have a whole section on materials and stitches and techniques, and then you have all of your templates. So brilliant little book. Absolutely love that, and cannot wait to experiment a little bit more with embroidery, and I'll probably give some of these a go. So as I mentioned, I love folk art, and I really love American folk art. So I bought this a few months ago, and it has been such an inspiring book. I don't know what it is that attracts me to folk art so much. But there's something, it's got brilliant photos in this book, by the way. There's something so cosy and I think accessible about it. Let me just try and find some larger pieces for you to have a look at. Look at another fantastic image of Grandma Moses. And I love the titles. This one's Over the River to Grandmother's House. It's just so evocative. It's evocative of a different time. I sometimes think I'm born in the wrong era. But yeah, I love the amount of detail and just, I don't know, to say it has a simplicity in certain aspects, but it's also, I don't know, so much care has been taken with these pieces, which I love. And you know me, I love anything with cute little houses in it. But each one really tells a story. Absolutely adorable little outfit. Makes me want to paint her actually. Yeah, this is a really big coffee table book, so hopefully it's visible to you on screen. Autumn, look at that. Gosh, that gives me all the nice autumn feelings. And I believe Grandma Moses was painting a time, she was painting how things used to be. Like, for example, when she was growing up. So in some ways, often she's painting the past. But yeah, just super inspiring. Love the winter ones too. That's gorgeous. Is that the one on the front cover? I think it might be. So there we go. Some books that hopefully will give you something to think about and will inspire you. I'll leave a list of all of them in the description beneath this video. They won't be affiliate links or anything like that. I'll just basically give you a list so that you can then Google and check them out and find them for yourself if you want to. But if you're interested in looking at some more books, as I said, I'm going to be making a video for my Patreon that will be up on there very, very soon. So thank you for watching, and I hope you enjoyed that. If you did, give it a thumbs up, please, because it helps my videos to be seen by a wider audience, and that really helps my channel, which is great, and I'll be very appreciative if you could do that. Yeah, I will see you soon. Take care, everyone. Bye for now.